Okay. Bro, and I read your message in the group saying you don't have to study every single chapter, like if you because there'll be options or something.
Yeah, there are. So the paper pattern is 30 marks is unseen passage related to what we're doing in college.
Okay, so
And
that's open-ended, right? So you can read
yeah,
general.
that
Yeah. Okay.
exactly. And like there was an old paper sent now, so you just see through that how the questions will be, how the uh, this thing passage will be. And 30 marks will be divided, I think, 3 into 10. Three questions, 10 marks each, and we'll have five or six options to choose from.
And the rest thought, okay, so the first 30 marks will be three open-ended questions. The rest will be again three, oh?
Yeah, I think that is the 15 marks just one question. Anybody? Like, is it two 15-mark questions, three 10-mark
It's two
questions?
15 markers.
It's comprehension, no?
Huh.
Yeah,
So
it's
it'll be
two.
divided, no? 3 into 5 or something like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe
okay. So three
possibly.
into five into two. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Bro,
three more questions.
comprehension could be 1 into 5 plus 2 into 5 also. You never know.
No, but you have to write two comprehensions, bro.
Correct. Two mains total, like 15
Yeah,
into 2.
okay, understood. That's what two mains, and in that you can have like two markers or five markers or three markers. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think it's two comprehensions. I think it's one comprehension, two such questions, like two, you know. Hmm.
Oh, okay, okay. So one passage and two questions under the passage of 15
Yeah.
marks each. And that okay, and that passage, is it like a cutout of one of the stories, or is that also something generic?
Unseen, unseen.
Bro, the first three are unseen passage. No, I'm talking about the last 30 marks.
Last 30 marks is from the chapter only, open-ended questions from the chapter, like reflective essay on classmate as an example,
Okay,
or
understood. So you have to reference the chapter. You can't just not reference the
no,
chapter.
you
But for the
have
first
to.
three, okay, for the first three questions, you don't have to reference any chapters because they're
Uh,
open-ended.
what what Sir said is the themes will be similar to what we're studying. So probably the unseen passage will be some Dalit stuff only, some oppression caste thing only. So it's better if you know what's going on in the syllabus for you to be able to answer.
No, no, understood, understood.
You won't have to reference any of the chapters in the first 30 marks of the paper.
Got it, got it.
I'm sure the documentary, like that shit documentary and Fandry, both will come as 10-mark questions. I'm sure it'll be one of the options. These two, Ambedkar for sure. Uh, which else? They might ask raw wound also. Yeah, I think these are very strong these things
I think
possibilities.
they'll definitely ask classmate. I have a feeling. I don't know why.
But I'm saying ki in my this thing these are four options. Six will come.
Or because certain classmate in class that reflective essay, he might not ask in the paper.
You never know, bro.
Yeah. Anyway, 10 marks he's taken from that. No, that's CIA.
It might be an option again, and it's pretty good if it's an option. But question also might be a little different. This that the reason for reading the chapters also is they say cite examples or uh, this reference or what is this symbolism. Just that. So it is open ended. You do have to like beat around the bush little bit, but with references. Just add few lines here and there. So you know what's going on. You've read the story. Hey, it's
Oh,
4:25, bro. What now? You want to wait for 4:30 because it's 4:26, huh? Chal, ठीक है, then we'll start with the last
Bro,
chapter.
in the
KGF.
textbook, there's something called Karnataka, no? One chapter.
Mm-hmm. That's all. We'll start
Do
with
I have
that,
to
huh?
read? Should I have to read that also?
Good.
We're doing it
Yeah.
now. If you want to read it afterward, just read it.
No, because he hasn't done Karnataka in class, no?
He
He
has.
did. He did.
He did. Labs.
Yeah, I remember. I cracked a joke on it also. I said polar bear and koala bear, some shit. So I remember.
Bro, what are we doing here today on the call?
The last chapter and revision of chapters that like most of us are trying.
Wedding planning.
Now, I want to start off with Karnataka.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you all just want me to read the pointers that I made? Okay. The entire story revolves around the life of the manual scavengers. Kolar was known for its gold, and so there's this line that says, "Beyond the dazzle of gold, who looks at the exploitative system based on manual scavenging?" So I guess that's a very important line because it's saying that everyone always saw the bright side that we get gold from Kolar, but they don't look at all the discrimination that happens in that particular area. For 116 years, the gold was generated, and for those 116 years, Dalit families were stripped of even the basic human rights. Um, and the manual scavenging work was delegated to the Christian Dalits. They had to carry baskets of excrement on their heads, and they also had a separate church, which was called the Totti Church. Um, Initially, Totti was the name of a job, but later it just got converted to a caste because all the people that were performing the that job, they just started terming them as Totti. If I'm pronouncing that, but yeah, THOTTI. Um, KGF. So this whole thing is about the Kolar Gold. I don't know what the F is in the Marikuppam area.
Field.
Field, right? Thanks. Um, so they had to clean the gutters and the septic tanks. They even used to sweep all the roads, and some of them got educated and became teachers, while the others were auto rickshaw drivers. Um, and the people from Andhra Pradesh, they had a separate Telugu church. Again, the Totti church. Then they start talking about a boy whose name is Wilson. Wilson's family came from the Narisigadu. That is his one of his forefathers or ancestors' names. His father Yekab hid the fact that they had to perform the work of manual scavenging from him. But when Wilson turned 16 or 17, he actually saw. One sec. Yeah, he actually saw the job that his father and brother had to perform. So he was quite heartbroken to see that. Um, and this is the story from Narisigadu. He had said that it was hunger that compelled him to do this job. And like when he realized that, at least he's getting a little bit of food to, satisfy his hunger of that empty stomach. This is Karnataka, the last chapter. He got a few people from his village to come here as well. And that's how ultimately a settlement was formed. Uh, Narisigadu worked for 3 years and then he passed away, leaving this so called legacy to his son and daughter in law. So after a
Who's
point,
Narasi Gadu again?
sorry,
Who's that Narasi Gadu guy?
um, He's like an ancestor of Wilson. Wilson is the boy I'm talking about. Okay.
So even that guy is a Dalit Christian, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The workers could not believe that they could do anything other than manual scavenging because that was their entire life revolved around it. They didn't think that they had an alternate option. But with all these revolts that started happening, they finally thought, that um, they could get rehabilitated. And that's about Wilson's story. After that, we talk about Murthy, who's an auto driver. And even though he went through so many years of performing the work of manual scavenging, um, today his face, like when they spoke to him, there was a glow on his face when he spoke about how he could leave that inhuman job. So he was really happy about it. And this is what he says, and I quote: "We have now begun to live the life of humans," which shows that they were treated worse than like even animals because they were literally shat upon. And there was another guy called Babu Lal who had a similar story. And though, with the auto rickshaw work, he had to sustain a family of 9 members. He was still happy to do it because at least he didn't have to pick anyone's feces. All right. And then when the author went to like investigate further because he couldn't actually believe that manual scavenging had ended in Kolar, when he went to see, he saw that instead of the dry latrines, there were now flush toilets that led to covered pits, which were literally cleaned by the same manuals, the Tottis, um, exactly the way the dry latrines were cleaned by their like with their bare hands. And so technically manual scavenging did not end. It was just in another form. It's just that these pits had to be cleaned maybe once in a few months or maybe once a year, but it was the same concept. So it didn't actually end. And when questioned about it, um, the basically what the author feels is that why would the administration like pay so much money to buy suction machines when the cost of human labor is so low, which basically translates to why care about humanism when money is everything people seem to care about in today's world. And then when it also came about these flush toilets, even the communal toilets were filthy. And again, the same manual scavengers had to clean these toilets as well. So there was technically no change. So that's about it. That was the generic thing. And then again, we moved to someone called Mauli Prakash. He was a 50-year-old man, and he starts tearing up while narrating his experiences of cleaning. Um, I know whatever of cleaning the everyone's shit. He said that this work goes on day and night. It's continuous. You have to carry a lot of buckets, and you have to take many rounds in order for the toilets to get completely cleaned. He says that even hell would not be worse than this. I feel ashamed to be alive. All of that just shows the torture and how badly they wanted to change their lives, but they couldn't. They were extremely desperate to change their lives, but no matter how much they tried, they were still stuck in that same position because though according to the government, they've made flush toilets, they still had to clean it. So it made no difference. And Priyanka says this uh, teacher
I
called
need
Priyanka, and she acts as a translator for the author. Uh, Priyanka was an English school teacher. Sorry, yeah, English teacher. And while translating Mauli's story, even she starts to tear up and cry because she can't imagine how tough their life has been. Then that's Mauli's story, and then we move on to Ratnam's story. So there are basically a lot of people that are. It's kind of like an interview. We're doing Karnataka Bari, the last chapter. Okay. And then we talk about Ratnam. He's a computer science lecturer. He is one of the people that got educated and came out of the life of manual scavenging. And for these kind of people, they openly talk about all the discrimination and all the struggles that they had to go through. And this is really good because when they voice out their opinion, at least some people, might hear whatever they're saying and may hear their cries, and that'll help manual scavengers to come out of it if other people start supporting this cause. Um, Yeah, and then it ends with talking about um, the lane where, I mean, the road at where all of these people's dwellings were. It was called 30 Lane, which is known as Sweeper's Lane. There are about 118 houses, and all these houses are falling apart. You could barely even call them houses. And the last person we talk about is David, who had after rehabilitation, he got a kerosene dealership, and he was forced by the upper caste to give up and sell that dealership. But he um, he didn't agree, and now he is actually fighting for the same cause. He's trying to get people out of the work of manual scavenging. And he's quite surprised that the lane is still called 30 Lane, even though people apparently there's no manual scavenging. So he says that clearly this is a very tough fight for us to win, because things are not going to change very easily. It's going to take a long time. And I don't know the importance or the symbolism of this, but it says that um, usually in most of the places where the Dalits used to live, there used to be a statue of Ambedkar, but in this case there was like a statue of Karl Marx. So I don't know the symbolism of that, but that's how it ends. Did everyone get that?
Yes, thank you.
Wait, is the symbolism more of like a communist theory? I guess that makes more sense.
Yeah, I think because the autocratic.
Because of how it works, yeah, because of how
Yeah.
communism works, I guess that's the symbolism with the Karl Marx statue.
Can I just read that last part because I was unsure?
Mm, yeah, okay, cool, go with it.
Okay, so it said, I saw something very interesting in KGF. In Dalit areas in the rest of the country, I had seen statues of Ambedkar erected at various places and heard slogans about him. However, in KGF, I saw the murals on a cement and mud wall of Karl Marx, the founder of Marxist philosophy, and even of Lenin, the harbinger of the Soviet Revolution. These carefully painted murals adorning the beginning um, of the lane next to 30 lane was so impressive that one felt compelled to stop and take a look. On being asked, Wilson said that the whole area of KGF has been under the influence of Marxist thinking and of the Center of Indian Trade Unions, which is affiliated to the Communist Party of India. The CPI had been influential too once upon a time, and since Andhra Pradesh is next door, so to speak, influence of the armed rebellions prevalent there has reached Kolar too. In fact, this militancy has deeply impacted the Dalit movement in the south. This also holds true for the movement for the eradication of manual scavenging from KGF.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. So that's the symbolism, right?
Can you explain?
I said that's the symbolism, right? Marxist theory in, sorry, Marxist following in South India. I guess that's the symbolism of the Karl Marx statue.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Anything else? This is that's it, right?
Yeah.
Chalo, superb. See you all. Bye bye.
What the fuck? Okay, peace. Bye, 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 bye.
Do y'all want to do anything else?
Yeah, bro, can you do that nation and village? I wasn't there in the morning.
Um, okay.
आनिया एक बार स्टार्टिंग से पूरा करवा सकती है?
Yeah, if possible.
I swear
नहीं
it.
अपनी पढ़ाई भी हो
भाई
जाएगी उसकी पढ़ाई भी
अभी
हो
कर भी
जाएगी
देंगे
रिवीजन हो
ब्रो.
जाएगा उसका.
Okay, I'll do Nation and Village because that's a long one. See, the first chapter, second chapter, and all, once y'all read, because you all will understand it like that
No, yeah,
only.
I finished the first chapter in the morning. Second chapter also I finished. That's fine.
So the first two are easy. Now Karnataka I did. Fandry everyone knows. Rohit Vemula's letter is also easy. I sent notes on that. I sent notes on the IIT guy's interview, the Vipin guy. So y'all can read all that also. अगर डाउट होवे तो मैसेज करना, but I can't redo the whole thing.
Is that relevant, the interview thing?
Possibly because he talks about again discrimination and how at least the last, yeah, the last line I remember him saying that the people, the lecturers that came from outside or even in college were Tamil Brahmins. So
Hmm.
it's bias and favoritism and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do Nation and Village. It's a little long, but okay. Um, okay, so then this is just an overview that he starts with. He says that, sorry, it just says that villages used to talk about authentic lives of people before corruption and influence from other cultures. So you can see the real India. So in this entire thing, it just talks about. So Gandhi, Nehru, and Ambedkar believe that villages show like the truth of India, but it's just that their truths of India like differed. Gandhi believed that villages were perfect, and in like India, like the nation, when freedom, whatever, whenever we got freedom, should like consist should be only in the villages and not due to modernization. Nehru believed that, of course, villages should exist, but they need to be
No,
modernized.
1 minute. Just repeat Gandhi's part.
I'll repeat it again. I'm just giving you an overview. I'll tell you in detail. Um, so Nehru believed that there should be modernization and urbanization because that's just going to help our country grow. And for example, he said you can start using modern methods of farming. It's just going to increase the growth of crops. And Ambedkar's image of a village is completely different. Ambedkar said that villages are like they basically talk about exclusion, exploitation, and untouchability. That was his view of a village. So Gandhi and Nehru still had some common points, but Ambedkar was completely against the village system. Now to elaborate on each, um, Gandhi and Nehru's writings were reflective in nature because they didn't have any real experience of actually living in a village, whereas B.R. Ambedkar was a Dalit, so he actually knew whatever discrimination and struggles that people in the village had to go through. So his is experiential. So that's an overview. Now to come to each and every person. So Gandhi's point of view, he had three reasons for supporting this idea of India becoming India constituting of only villages. So his first phase was where he wanted to compare villages to the west to show certain similarities. For example, the panchayat system and its voting rights. That's again something similar that was in the Western cultures, basically autonomy. Second phase was he thought of villages to be an alternate to modern lifestyle. For example, he thought people from the cities could come to villages and they should live like how villagers live. Manav, did you have something to say?
No, 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 by mistake.
Okay. Okay, and then the third phase, he spoke about reforming the already existing villages because he saw many faults in the village system as well. So then the first phase again, he basically wanted to talk about the voting rights, as I said. He used villages for this agenda. He wanted them to be free, to have their own cultural identity, which villages had. But he meant to say that villages have these age-old traditions and cultures that hold a lot of importance. So he wanted to prove that. Second, um, the panchayat system, again to prove independence, also to show authenticity. And he believed that only if you uplift villages are you going to uplift all of India. And as I said, new nation can be formed in villages, not in the city. So the faults that he found was the lack of cleanliness and caste discrimination, which is untouchability. Those are the major flaws that he found. He believed that the only way to reform villages is to not use violence but to promote socialism. According to him, the ideal village will not have untouchability. There will be independence. Um, People would grow their own crops except for like tobacco, opium, etc. And there would be a prevalent panchayat system. And he said that the current cities that the British Raj has made, the, he didn't call for the destruction of these cities, but he said that all people living in these cities need to learn the art of living of the villagers. So basically, make the entire nation into villages. That's what he meant. He didn't want cities, he didn't want urbanization, modernization. He wanted everything to be rural. That was Gandhi's point of view. Clear? Any doubts? Okay, great. Um, Fine. Then we have Nehru's point of view. So Nehru's image of real India was, this is exactly what he says. He says naked, starved, miserable. He believed that community, caste, and joint family system, they put an individual like nowhere in the picture. It's just a group. So there's no individual rights. It's just the duties of a group. But the basic human rights um, are not, like, they don't have basic human rights. That's what he means to say. He's saying that the traditional social structure emphasizes on duties and not rights of the people. And he did not, like, though he was like a follower of Gandhi and he respected him, he did not believe in Gandhi's ideology of reviving the traditional structure of villages, because then there would be no equality if that old structure was revived. And he also talks about another flaw, which is the agrarian crisis. Um, so farmers and villagers had the burden of rent. They used to get beat up by the zamindar, sorry. There was pressure from the money lenders, and all this just showed inequality. According to him, the craftsmen were deprived of jobs because all of them were forced to just focus on agriculture by the Britishers, and that just led to um, overpopulation and burden on the land. And some agriculturists also used to make handicrafts in their extra time, and that used to be their extra income. But because of the Britishers, everything stopped. So he believed that this is one thing that needs to be taken care of. He believed that urbanization is actually helpful and could reduce the burden on land, in the sense that villagers could use modern methods which would help in the growth of crops, as I said earlier. So there are three things that are common with Gandhi. First thing would be revival of handicrafts instead of machinery for this. Second, autonomy of villages, because only once the panchayat system comes into, like, when it's actually a proper panchayat system, that's how the villages used to be. And the age old cultures and traditions obviously play an important role, so he wanted to revive that. And the third similarity is because both of them read colonial texts, so their views were like reflective and not actually like, they didn't experience anything. So they both knew that villages had a major role to play in the formation of our nation. Um, Again, because they read colonial texts. So that's about Nehru and Gandhi. Any doubts? Okay, cool. And then you have Ambedkar's point of view, which is like a complete contrast. His point of view is also known as the Dalitist view of village. Um, so he was the only one with first-hand experience of the village life. He could never forget his childhood trauma that he faced, the discrimination, the struggles, how he was bullied for belonging to a particular caste. So all this stayed with him and obviously changed his view of how important villages are in the formation of the nation. He saw Indian civilization as a Hindu civilization where Dalits are not even a part of the Hindu civilization. And he believed that um, if the village only was divided into touchables and untouchables, then how could a nation ever be formed? Like, if there's already division, how can you actually bring unity? It's not possible because touchables were like a majority, they were considered superior, and untouchables a minority and were considered inferior. Untouchables lived according to the touchables' rules. He believed that villages itself led to the ruination of India. How can a divided nation ever be called a nation? That was what he said. And according to him, the real Indian village was nothing but exclusion, exploitation, and untouchability. So, this is a complete contrast to Gandhi and Nehru's views. Uh, so these are the rules that Dalits had to follow. They could not practice agriculture. They could not wear jewelry or get a fair remuneration. They could not even get any land from the farmer or from the zamindar. They used to live separately on the outskirts of the village, which was known as the ghetto. And the Dalits were usually servants and laborers, and they performed menial jobs and tasks. So Ambedkar basically believes that village is a type of colonialism formed by the Hindus to exploit the untouchables. Dalits had no rights because they weren't even a part of the village. They lived on the outskirts, so they had no basic human rights and they were considered nobodies. And Ambedkar's view is considered as an anthropological view because he says that in villages there's no unity and caste system ruins the image of India because if there's no unity and like for example you have your shudras, vaishyas, brahmins and kshatriyas and they used to fight for power, so that's basically a war within a country and that just weakens the country itself. So that's Ambedkar's point of view. He did not believe in um, villages being like obviously constituting a nation. Okay, that's about it. Did you all get everything?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Any doubts anywhere?
That's all caste, nation, and villages.
That's an overview because I removed all the important points and compiled it.
Oh, so I have to read the whole thing again.
If you've read it once, then
I haven't read it. I thought I don't need to read it because you're doing it anyway.
in this is like everything. I basically summarize everything. But if you want to go through it once, then yeah, go through it. It would be better because then you'd have your own point of view. It's your choice. So are we done?
Yeah.
Do last one more, no, just one more. What's the on after nation village? Gogu Shamala.
Raw wound.
Yeah.
Um, what do you want? Like a summary of it?
Whatever you did for the last two chapters, that's all.
Sorry.
Like for the last two chapters, what you did, no, the overview, summary, all that.
Yeah.
Same thing you'll give.
Okay. I'll give my point of view and then Rohan, please pitch in. Raw wound. Okay. So this is basically about Gogo Shamala itself. So in the village, they believe that there needs to be a woman who is called a Jogini. Joginis are basically women from the Dalit community that need to devote their life to God. So they marry God, and then they are just used as objects of pleasure by all of the men in the village. So that's what a Jogini is. And unfortunately, Gogu Shamala was her father was called by the landlord and was told that she needs to become the next Jogini because the previous Jogini was really old and she was about to die. And Gogu Shamala's father did not want her to become a Jogini because nobody would like respect her and they would just use her, and he did not want that. Moreover, he also wanted to educate her because he wasn't able to manage like the business part of um, whatever agricultural work he had. He could not manage the accounts, and so he really wanted to educate his child so that at least she could help him. So he okay, you want me to start from the beginning, or can I just tell you the main gist?
Whatever work.
Okay. So Gogu Shamala's dad did not want her to become a Jogini, so he goes to this school that believes in equality of human rights and everything. And he explains to the lady there that, he doesn't want his daughter to become a Jogini, and he pleads her, he like begs her, like he touches her feet quite literally, and gets her the admission. And then he goes back to his village. So Gogu Shamala actually studies, with a lot of devotion, yeah, with a lot of concentration, because she doesn't want to disappoint her family and her father. And after a few months or days, if I'm not wrong, there is this 4-day break, and Gogu Shamala decides that she wants to go back home because she's terribly missing her family. So she had a little money saved, which was given to her by her brother. So she decides to go home. In the meantime, at the village, her father was called to the landlord's house, and he was so the landlord basically said that when I explicitly told you that your daughter is going to become the next Yogini, how could you send her away to get educated? Because he basically went against the direct order of the landlord. So they throw a paperweight at him and right at his head, and he falls down and his head starts bleeding, and then the landlord calls a few more people. So it was the landlord present and the accountant. After that, they call a few more people and they start beating him up. Later on, he's left outside on a pile of hay, and someone comes and they see his condition, and they immediately go and inform his wife. So she comes running, and she sees her husband in such a condition, and she realizes that he's dehydrated, he needs some water. So she goes to the landlord's house and obviously is denied water. Then she goes to another lady's house. This lady was the wife of another politician for whom Gogu Shamala's parents did not vote for. So she's like, if you didn't vote for my husband, why would I even give you water? So she tells her to move away. And then she goes to another house, but none of them give her water. Then finally, there's this lady that comes, and she realizes that her father, like Gogu Shamala's father, really is in need of some liquid. And since there was no water available, she um, gives him like a few drops of her breast milk so that he survives. And she runs away and she says, do not tell anyone I helped you, because if you did, then my family would come into danger. And she goes away. And then Gogu Shamala appears at the scene and she sees the condition that her father's in. And when her father sees her, he gets completely shocked, and he's like, I did all this for you. Why did you come back? You need to go back and study. But I think she was really shocked by this, and I don't think she wanted to go back anymore. And then I know what happens after that. Rohan, what happens after that? Are you serious? Okay, wait, 1 sec. Okay, 1 sec. I'm just reading it. Give me a second.
What is the spelling of Jogini?
Jogini.
Okay.
Oh, right. Okay, I remember. And then, so they give Gogo Shamala's family an option whether to stay in the village and make Gogo Shamala the Jogini, or they had to like leave the village as soon as possible and give up their land. So the family didn't know what to do, but her father was like sure that he is not going to let Gogo Shamala become a Jogini. So they kind of forced his print onto the paper, and they stole his, like, basically took his land away. And then they all had to leave the village, and they were left with nothing but the clothes that they had on. And the Patel, the landlord, basically gives the family the bus fare, and he tells them to leave. And it ends with um, the father still telling Gogo Shamala, don't worry, study and become a big officer. And that's exactly what got her through her education. That, no matter what her family went through, what she went through, she still had to become something to help get her family out of this. And the last line says, my childhood, marked by a refusal to become a Jogini and by my father losing his land, is a raw wound for my family, for my community, and for me. A throbbing memory even today. So it's called Raw Wound because even though this happened years before, it's still fresh and raw in their minds. Okay, Sarvesh?
Got it.
Okay, done. Yeah.